Hey everybody! I'm so excited to have you here. Look at this, some fancy background and just here ready to celebrate Come Home, the release of my book Come Home with you guys. I'm super excited. And so before we kick things off, even though we're celebrating, even though I'm super grateful to be able to celebrate this accomplishment of writing this book. I do want to start off by giving God praise and just praying to just acknowledge God because He's really the superstar here. He's the one who helped make this book thing happen. And so I just want to pray real quick and giving thanks to God. So God, I thank you so much for just allowing me this opportunity to come with friends and fellow workers, Lord, in your vineyard, Lord, just to celebrate this work of completing this book, God, and sharing this message of how we can come home to you, how we can surrender our souls and our sexuality to you, God, and then find our contentment in you, God. Lord, I pray that all of the festivities and all of our conversation tonight, that you would get the glory, and Lord, that you would draw men to yourself through this event, and that women would be helped and ministered to through our conversations tonight, through the fun that we have tonight, through all of our items on our little schedule, our party schedule. And God, I just thank you so much for being faithful, for carrying me through this assignment from start to finish, and then just along the way connecting me with so many beautiful people that help make this possible, God. People who believed in me, people who supported me, and then people who invited me into their lives and into their struggle, so that I can see that this isn't just a book to lie on a shelf, but a book to share with women and help them grow spiritually. So God, you take the glory tonight, God. You get all the credit. And we just thank you. And as we celebrate what you've done in this book and this endeavor, I just pray that you will bless everybody who comes tonight. In Jesus' name, amen. So glad to have you here. If you're watching, please do put your name in where you're from in the chat, because I do want to shout you out. Thank you for being here. And so without further ado, let me just welcome you to the Come Home virtual book launch party. And so we have a lot of fun things lined up for you tonight, including, hey CC, including, let me get my banner straight. Hey, oh my gosh, I don't want to say it wrong. Hey Camille, I might have said that one wrong. Alethea, I hope I said your name right, girl. I think I freak myself out when I see it. Including giveaways. So tonight we will have some giveaways. And it's gonna be punctuated by some fun trivia questions, because I know I hate when I get on a live and there's a giveaway, but they're like, oh, it's random. I'm just gonna go through the thing and pick somebody. And I'm like, give me a chance to win. And so I'm gonna give us some time, just like maybe a moment or two while I'm describing what we're going to do. So there's going to be 3 chances to win a book signed and have it mailed to you. And the first chance is the first 2 chances are trivia questions. And so the trivia questions are, about stories where the main character is trying to come home. And so the first trivia question will be something for people more my age that like to watch cartoons. And then one will be which is going to be about Samurai Jack. So get your knowledge about Samurai Jack, the cartoon, ready. And then the second question is going to come from The Wizard of Oz, which is something everybody has watched, right? I mean, who hasn't seen The Wizard of Oz? And so the last question will just be, you tweet out something or share something from this live on your Instagram or your Facebook, and then use a hashtag, and then tag me in it. Just tag at Purpose and Purity Podcast, and then I'll choose the winner from there. So 3 chances, you can absolutely win. None of that random go through the feed stuff. So I hope you guys are excited. Finally, well, not finally, next on our agenda is a conversation with my great friend Amy Riordan. She is a minister over at the URL longingforintimacy.com, and there she really shares about her experience of same-sex attraction and helping women who struggle with intimacy issues where they really need to come to Christ. And I'll let her explain a little bit more about that herself as I get ready to pull her on here. And I just wanted you guys to give a warm welcome to Amy. Come on, girl. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm super excited to have you here. Let me kind of twist myself in the middle here so I'm with you. But yeah, so tonight we're going to have a conversation. You're aware that the theme is come home. And so since both of us have these stories of really running away, and I think all of us do, really, it might be a different sin or a different struggle, but we all have a story of running away from God and needing to come home to Him. And so yours involves the testimony of how God helped you with same-sex attraction, and then mine involves, a myriad of things. A dibble dabbler. I was a dibble dabbler. And so I thought it would be really awesome if we could both share some stories that kind of highlight these points in our story and kind of share our testimony. So since you are our guest, I would love for you to go first. If that's okay, I'm not putting you on the spot, Emma.
Sure, that's fine.
Okay, so the first question is, what did your runaway experience look like? So when you ran away from God, when you were distant from Him and you needed to come back, what did that look like for you?
Yes. Well, I gave my life to Christ in my mid-20s. I had grown up going to church. I really didn't have a relationship with Him. Didn't even know I needed to or could until I was in my mid-20s. And so much changed in my life during that time, but a lot of other things got kind of buried down beneath that I didn't realize I thought were gone until later. I got married, and a year and a half or so, I ended up having my son. And I was going to do the whole natural childbirth thing and just experience all of that. And I ended up having an emergency C-section. So it was entirely different, as a lot of people experience, than I wanted. And I ended up going through a time of postpartum depression that I didn't even recognize was depression until probably 7 or 8 months after he was born. But during that time, and this is not an excuse, it's just an explanation of what was going on then. I started looking at porn online, and I had looked at that before. I was looking at lesbian porn. I wasn't interested in looking at anything else. And all of this stuff from my past that I thought had just so nicely gone away, it just had never surfaced until this time again. I had been in a relationship with one of my best friends years earlier for a couple of years. And
this is a female friend you were talking about, right?
Yes. And I had looked at, like, with a previous boyfriend, we watched porn together and all of that. And I just thought, oh, this is gone, until all of a sudden now I'm looking at it again. And it wasn't on the computer the first time. It was before all of that the first time. So it's totally different this time. And I didn't know how to tell my husband, and I didn't tell anybody. And just even, I thought I was the only Christian woman looking at porn. And then the lesbian porn, I thought, well, definitely nobody's doing that. So I was growing distant from God, as you can imagine, in the meantime, because I thought, how has this happened? God must hate me. And I'm one of those people that have probably too high of expectations for myself. And I thought God was the same way. I thought He was disappointed in me and wanting nothing to do with me. I never had discussed a lot of things with God at that point. Anything bothering me, I didn't know I could have that kind of relationship with him. So I was still going to church, but I was faking my way through everything basically, because no one had any kind of idea what I was going through. I was getting more and more distant from God, and getting to the point where I felt like I made a mistake marrying a man and I should have been with a woman like I had been years earlier. And that's when I ended up coming back home. When I came back home to him.
Yeah. And let me stop you right there, because I want us to
Yes.
Yeah. So what I really hear you saying is you had these I guess these sinful habits, or these sexual habits, as far as like, watching porn, or even just, going those relationships of the past that you had, those habits that formed in your way of dealing with, they seem to be like your way of dealing with stress and stuff. And I know I can totally relate, like you said, in your postpartum. I got depressed like before I had my baby, and a little bit after as well. And there is that it's such a pain, like a mental experience, and such an emotional toll on you, that I do, like, even I had that strong urge to go back to those old ways of finding that quick pleasure, because it's not as if, I hear you say it wasn't anything to do with your husband. It was more like just dealing with these emotional drainers on you, and then trying to get that quick, relief from it. So I can totally identify with that, because I also feel like that as well. And if I had to like quickly describe my own runaway experience, I would say that for me, growing up and without my dad, pretty much growing up without my dad, I like to think that didn't have as much as a effect on me as it did. But as I got into high school, I really started to notice that longing and that affirmation to be, affirmed by a man. And I also, everywhere I looked, the women in my life as well, they did, my mom and everybody else, people in my church, things like that, they did the best that they could. But I still saw women doing the same thing, going to relationships and not really trying to find their identity in God. So that was my go-to as well, getting attention and affirmation from a relationship. And so for me, growing up where, I kind of pretty much had to take care of a lot of things, or go through a lot of things on my own. So for me, I just developed this independent tendency where I felt like, okay, in order to be loved by somebody, I got to be perfect. I got to have my stuff together. So I had good grades. I did all the extracurriculars. I got achievements here and there and things like that. And then I finally got into this relationship with this guy, and it carried over into college. I was like so sure that this was going to be like it. And then I also experienced the freedom that a lot of us do when we first venture out of your household, and you can kind of dibble dabble, do your own thing. And I'm drinking with my neighbors, and I'm also getting into porn, and also getting and doing it for such a time that regular porn isn't doing it for me anymore. Now I gotta like step it up and go to the next level of porn. And I think a lot of people watching can identify with that, being lesbian porn next, and then you like just identifying with it, like the lie that, oh my gosh, like they really are into each other. They seem to have some kind of special connection that you can't, normally get with a man. So there's that kind of allure that it has. So when God found me, I was totally in that place of like completely satisfied in my sin and getting affirmation from this relationship I was in. And then just those, not only sexual pleasures, other things in my life, but those were really strongholds for me. And so I want to ask you, what made you finally come home to God? When did that process start for you? Like, when did you turn back?
Well, that would have been about 2 years into, it was about a year and a half, 2 years into looking at the porn. And the reason why is because I scared myself, to be honest. The Holy Spirit had been tapping me on the shoulder forever to tell my husband what I was doing and what I was planning in my mind. I was thinking of leaving. Just all of this stuff, it breaks my heart now because my daughter wasn't even born yet. I wouldn't have her. I just think of all these things now as I'm talking, and but anyhow, I ended up scaring myself, thinking all of a sudden one day, oh my goodness, what am I doing? And again, I had tried to tell my husband 1,000 times, and I ended up writing it down for him one day. He left to go somewhere, and I wrote it down. I just said, I'm looking at porn, and it's not at the men, it's at the women. And he had known that I was in a relationship with a woman before we met, but we both thought it was just in the past, and he had no idea what I had been doing and thinking and fantasizing about the past year and a half, 2 years. And in telling him finally, and then we ended up talking to our pastors because we were very involved in our church, and I was just, no one had any idea. And in doing all of that, it opened the doors back up for me with God. It was very slow and difficult at that point, but I thought finally, like that feeling of, okay, whoever needs to know knows. I don't know what to do. I'm humiliated. I'm scared. I don't know what Kevin's going to do. I felt so much shame. But at that point, I thought, okay, God, I did what you've been telling me to do forever, and I have no idea where to go from here. So that's the how and the when and the why of how I
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah. And I gotta say on the opposite end, and you guys, I want you guys to chime in the chat too if you have a quick question or for Amy or anything in her experience, because I know a lot of y'all get to talk to me often, but I'm totally looking in the chat for your questions and comments. Want to quickly say, hey Cece, hey Alethea, hey Kaylee, hey Camille, hey Nancy from North Carolina, awesome. Okay, but it's for me. What did coming home look like for me? Coming home looks like, God was calling me to have a relationship with him, and that really happened when somebody like not up here, it's like a teacher slash mentor figure. They saw past my amazing immaturity, because at that time I was kind of like, just for lack of better words, we say ratchet. I don't know if you heard that word before. Amy. Ratchet mean. I wasn't like all the way out there, but I was like doing stupid stuff. But anyways, this mentor saw past my immaturity and invited me to church. Even with all my ratchery, I considered myself a very spiritual person. So I went. But I was very impressed because for the first time I saw a church and experienced a church where people were really trying to live for God. And so I started to go there, started getting involved in their college ministry. And from there, I started hanging out with some of the college students, and I started to see the difference between my lifestyle and their lifestyle. I don't know if you've ever experienced that before, but I was like, dang, these people for real trying to live for Jesus, like 24/7 live for Jesus. And so it really caused me to question my life. Like, okay, yes, I'm saying I I love Jesus and I'll go to church, but what am I really doing? I came to understand that God, he cares about our life. He wants relationship with us as he is the creator and we are his creation. And we were made to be in relationship with him. And God has a design for the way he wants us to live our lives. And I have been living outside of his design for my life. And so when I finally figured out I wasn't saved, I went to my boyfriend. I was like, yo, I found out I'm not a Christian, but you know what? We can be Christians together, me and you, and get married, while we're at it. And at that moment, he was just like,
Oh.
and I was like, oh, but you go to church with me? He's like, I just go to hang out with you. I just go to hang out with you. And I'm like, oh, okay then. And so then I'm kind of like in this dilemma, like the situation put me in a dilemma where it's like I can start a relationship with Jesus at the expense of the relationship that I'm in, this relationship that I find my worth and my value from, and or I could just let that go and trust Jesus. And honestly, I wish I was that person that said, yeah, I chose Jesus because I knew he was enough. But I was like, you know what, Jesus, thank you, but no, not right now. And so God was really gracious to me in that, like, after I had committed in my heart to not go there, he really he just took everything. He took the relationship. And with that, I really came to see, and of course, I would even say, like, after that relationship, after it was taken away, I went places I never went before. Like, I got advice from a friend in my depression, because I was depressed after that. They even said, well, you know how to make it better, right? You just go sleep with somebody else and then you'll feel better, and then you'll it'll be great and you'll feel better. And so, like, for the first time in my life, I absolutely, there was nothing, even as a non-Christian, I saw no value in just sleeping with somebody on the strength of sleeping with them. And so I did it because I was that far gone. And so, I mean, it didn't work. It made me, it put me it even drug me down deeper. Like, I basically went through this long depression in this place where I came up out of even who I was. And so God was gracious and let me go through that. It doesn't sound like a good thing to go through, but it was so good for me because I could realize that everything that I saw my value and identity from was really sinking sand. It was not anything I could count on. And so walking home, it was like a stereotypical sad day too. It was like it was raining. I was walking through an alley. I was like alone. This was like right after my ex-boyfriend had made it very clear that we were never getting back together, ever. And so I'm like super alone, walking through the rain in the alley, and I'm like so depressed. And I just felt the Lord speak to my heart in that moment. And it wasn't like audible voice, y'all. I wasn't tripping. Like, I wasn't like hearing things. It's like God spoke to my heart, and he was like, Nia, why are you so depressed and downcast over this relationship and really this person right now that doesn't care about you? And I want you to know, like, if you choose to trust me, I know this is new for you, but if you choose to trust me, I will show you a love that you have never seen before. You won't even be able to understand. And so at first I'm like, hold on, first of all, Jesus is talking to me. God speaking to me in my heart. And so I'm like, okay. And then second of all, when you hear, I mean, imagine, even like ladies, if you're single and you want to be married, imagine a man saying that to you with his, purest intentions and purest, plans to execute on that. That is just, I mean, wow. And so, like, when I heard that, I was like, God, how can I even refuse an offer like that? And so I chose, and from that day forward, I chose to live, like to give up to become a born again virgin, if you will. I chose to live pure until I got married, and then I just chose to, like, find out who God really is and what that means for me. And so now we're coming to this point where we're talking about the pitfalls and coming back home, because I know y'all in the chat are like, look, I know it ain't easy. It's like, oh yeah, Jesus, feel me. And now it's like sunshine and rainbows, because no, it's not. So tell me, Amy, like for you, because I know you had a lot of elements involved with marriage and, this relationship with your husband when you're thinking you should be in a relationship with a woman. What pitfalls did you find on the way back home? Like as you were trying to come back home to God, what did you experience?
Many pitfalls. I had wondered at one point if that would ever end. So I'm so glad that, it's not like things are perfect now, but oh, that was so hard. But I think the shame that I felt was, it surrounded every pitfall there was, really. I think I didn't realize that I had dealt with shame until God started healing my heart. During that time, I had started learning how to be transparent with God, which I had never heard of, because He started showing me, Amy, you're longing for intimacy with me. At first, actually, He said, you're longing for intimacy. And I thought that meant with Kevin, my relationship with him. And so I thought, we just need to get closer. And that is not at all what God meant, because I was so broken and he was broken for other reasons, and it just was not working. And then I realized, God's talking about him. Like I can get closer to him somehow and get this need in my heart that I've looked, that I also did look to Kevin for. At that point, I'm like, okay, if I can't have this with a woman, then you need to fix this, and Kevin can't do that either. He wasn't designed to do that. And, as I was learning that God wanted to have that with me, I had great difficulty because of the shame in talking to him about what was on my heart, talking to him about temptations that I was having, and learning to pay attention to what was going on in my mind. I had never given any thought whatsoever about like the fantasies that were going on in my mind. I could be sitting at the dining room table with my family, thinking about being with another woman and just eating with my family and not even realizing it till later. And God really started convicting me on all of those things. And I thought, oh my goodness, I am such a mess. But He started showing me, no, don't be too hard on yourself. Just keep coming to me, come to me. And that was really hard for me to do. And really just even being vulnerable enough to find somebody to talk to, which took me, I think, 3 years. 3 years to find. There was a woman at my church. She was a Christian counselor, and I had heard a little bit about her story, which was nothing like mine, but she had a lot of difficulties in her childhood and just a lot of things, other stuff that no one likes to talk about. And I thought, well, okay, she might be safe for me to talk to. And so I kind of prolonged. Another pitfall was me just prolonging, I think, everything by not talking to anybody, because I thought people would be scared of me and judge me. And, that has happened. People, I started reading your book last night, and I'm reading it and I was like, oh my gosh, I can so relate to it's really good. But just the fears, oh gosh.
Difficulties.
The fears of because then God started wanting me or asking me to share my story, and I still was dealing with so much shame. And, like you've mentioned in the book, fears of, okay, someone's going to share their story. Everyone needs to know. And this is like the worst topic we've ever brought up in our lives. And everyone needs to cover their ears. And, I already felt bad.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
I do understand, not everything is appropriate for everybody and kids. That's why my kids aren't here right now. They know my story, but not all of the details like I would talk about now. Um, but yeah, the shame and the just learning how to talk to God and to be honest with my husband, to learn to trust him and not listen to all the lies. That part of what fueled all of this for me with the same-sex attraction was believing that all women were trustworthy and men were not.
Mm,
You can trust a woman with your heart. You can't trust a man because he's eventually going to hurt you. And just a whole bunch of things like that. So I had a combination of the whole lust factor, which really came in through the pornography, and then the emotional part of, well, women, I could get closer to a woman than I could a man. So learning to, when God started showing me the lies that I was believing, and really listening to him when they were screaming at me again, like if my husband would let me down, which is going to happen. He's a person, just like I've let him down probably just the other day or something.
Yeah. And
Listening.
I see this question in the chat. My friend Cynthia asked, what moved you from being scared to tell someone, to sharing your own story? But I hear you saying it's really just God working and moving on your heart and prompting you. Would you say, yeah, that's
Yes,
correct?
he was prompting me. And honestly, I still get nervous. I got nervous before I got on here today because no one likes to feel rejected or like she's too much and stuff like that. But when I think to myself, okay, God, I know you're asking me to do this and wanting me to do it, and to think about how I needed, just like you, Nia, we needed that person. It would have been so nice to have that
Definitely.
person, and so that's why, if I think about that.
And I really want to answer that question, but I'm gonna have to leave it for everybody to read in the book because I do talk about that. But I want to get to this last question because I think this is the most important question of all we can really ask. What fulfillment and joy have you experienced since coming home to God? And I'll just answer that as briefly as I can and then give it back to you. And then I want us to do a little virtual cheers as we move on to the next festivity in our event tonight. But yeah, so for me, what fulfillment and joy have I experienced? I think the biggest thing that I'm realizing, even to this day, in the middle of this pandemic and all this tragedy that's coming up and all these discouragements and bad news, it gets your mind thinking like even worst case scenarios and like, what am I going to do if this happens, or how I'm going to handle if this happens, or what if I lose, whatever. And all of that, connecting that back to my story, like when you first start to believe in God, I believe a lot of us kind of have this expectation of what God is going to do to heal us or make us feel whole, or feel like, okay, I can let go of this this temporary pleasure that I'm getting from sexual sin, and trade it for, my commitment and devotion to God. For me, the biggest thing is coming back to the truth that, you know what, God is the only one that is going to be there for me. Like whether I'm going, whether I'm on a mountaintop experience or whether I'm in a valley, whether I'm having fun and celebrating a book release, or like, months from now something happened and, the country goes crazy or whatever, only God is going to give me the security I need and the joy, like his approval, his love, and his protection for me is the only thing that's going to give me the joy I need to get through life circumstances, no matter what they are. And so for me, like, to realize that and not get caught up in trying to run to different things, other things, like I did in the past, is such a blessing. And it's hard because every day you have to fight. You have to fight to remember that Jesus is enough and it's only God that is going to be able to carry you through. But it's so rewarding when I can spend time with God and just sit in His presence. Like the Lord is just so fulfilling. I can, like, when you love God and spend that time with Him in His presence, like there's no greater sense of accomplishment. You feel like you have to go out and you have to be somebody, but really all you have to do is know somebody. And know it sounds cliche or whatever, but really if you just know, spend your time trying to know God, He is gonna fulfill you and direct you and give you that purpose that you're looking for in life. And so, what about you? What would you say the biggest fulfillment or joy you've gotten from coming home to Christ is?
Honestly, I could almost just say ditto. For me, that described, I never knew what I could have with God, that He could honestly fill, you hear these generic things that, oh, God fills the hole in your heart. And I just thought that was a nice saying. And it's true. Like, there's no, I've never been able to describe the depth of what it really is. And just like you, like, I know He's there for me when I feel incredibly let down by somebody and betrayed, or when I let myself down, or when I feel I have left Him down and I come, or let Him down and I come back to Him, or turn and think He's going to be angry and He's just glad that I'm coming to Him.
Yeah, yeah.
Just knowing He doesn't expect perfection. He wants my heart, just learning how to, that there's someone that is safe for me to always share my heart with, and that is not something I ever knew was entirely possible. And to have a very super close relationship that's not codependent with someone, that I can lean on God all I
Yeah, it's
want.
not unhealthy. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So
so good. It's so beautiful. I love the way you put that. Just having someone you can consistently and safely share your heart with and not have to worry about the backlash or betrayal or any of that. Just to be so secure
yes.
in that love and in that fellowship, that intimacy, the intimacy with God. Well, that's all the time we have for our conversation. But I will definitely, you guys, have Amy on the podcast again very soon, because it's coming up now that this is for the, like, all this book stuff is getting done. So I'm super excited. Thank you for sharing with me. I wish I could have sent you one of these so that we can just like together.
I have water. I don't know if that counts.
Yeah, I got a water bottle right here too. We can do it.
Water
Ready?
bottle.
Three.
Okay.
Cheers! Yay! Thanks for celebrating with me. I'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Hey, I'm so happy that I could have Amy. I see your pom-poms and applause in the chat, Melody. Thank you so much again, Amy, for joining me. I'm so glad that I could spend my lunch talking with you about coming home to God. And so I'm super excited. So now, let me take a sip of this, because we do need to give a big cheers. Cheers, you guys. Cheers to you for being here. Well, cheers. Sparkling juice just tastes so good. All right, now it's time for our first round of trivia. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, the trivia is based on stories where the main character is trying to come home. So the first one is kind of gonna be thrown at the nerds from my era, and then the second question will be kind of like everybody. So we'll do the second question after the book reading. So first question comes from a very popular cartoon during my time called Samurai Jack. Anybody watched Samurai Jack before? Can you just pop your hand in the chat if you have watched Samurai Jack? It was about a samurai who got thrown into the future by an evil monster named Aku. So my question for you, if you can answer it, you you will definitely get a signed copy of this sent to your house. My question is, I'm gonna try to give you guys 30 seconds to answer because I don't want nobody to just Google it. So let me set my timer real quick. All right, so I'm setting my timer for 30 seconds. The question is, the samurai tries to jump. Okay, so there's an episode where Samurai Jack is fighting a coup in the beginning of the episode. And so he is fighting a coup, and you know, a coup dangles a portal to a portal in front of him, and then he takes it away. And then he dangles in front of Jack. And Jack tries to jump to get inside of it, but he can't because he's not good at jumping. He couldn't jump that high. And so, keeping in mind, the samurai tries to jump for the portal, but a coup tauntingly moves it just out of range before transforming into a bird and flying away with the portal. My question is, who teaches Samurai Jack to jump good so he can reach the portal? Like, this is one of the most popular episodes, so you should be able to, like, vaguely remember. The sound is acting up. Is that better? Let me know. So who is the one who talks about when I do, if you a person, if you multiple or whatever? Who is the one who taught Samurai Jack to jump good? Anybody know who taught Samurai Jack to jump good? I'm gonna leave it there and but the first person who answers, if you don't know, you can just say, "Look, I give up. I don't know." So who taught Samurai Jack to jump good? And so the next item, while I'm waiting for you guys to type your answer, the next item on our list is a brief reading from the book of home. That's it. Okay, guys. That was too hard. The Scotsman. I will give that to you because his head is red, his hair is red, and he does look like a Scottish man. But I don't know if he had a name per se. But when you said that, I can totally see how it might have a name. I don't remember. But, I so, Melody, I got you. Just email me at typea.google.com and give me your address. I put in real quick. All right. So now, moving on. Our next question is coming from the Wizard of Oz. So, hopefully you get your mind ready for that. So, all right. So the next item on our list is to briefly read from chapter 1 of Come Home. I don't want to be in this book. So I'm going to read from chapter 1, the part that starts with sharing my own story. And let me know if the audio sounds good, you guys, because I don't want to be reading and then you guys like, oh, it's on my face. But yeah, and after our reading, please stick around because we will have a Q&A session. We can ask you questions and a live book signing. So if your name is inside of this book, then I will sign your book. Whatever you want me to sign, live right here. And then we'll announce the rest of our winners. Okay, so sound is good. Can everybody let me know? Yes, I hear you in the chat as I get ready to start reading. I think the sound is still a bit off on my. I grab the mic. Is this better or is it worse? Better or worse? I want to assume it's better. All right, I'm gonna start. I'll look for your your messages in the chat so we can just keep on to the time. Keep on the timing. So I'm reading from page 13, and let me just put that on real quick to let everybody know. All right, my story. I used to walk the love store quite often. Better, slightly better. Okay, I was trying to talk directly to the mic for you guys. Oh, y'all, Satan trying to get up in this broadcast. Not today, Satan. Not today. Can you hear now? I'm waiting for you guys to let me know. If you can't hear, I'm just gonna lose the fancy audio mic and go straight to the computer. Yes, okay, good, good. I'll keep watching that. That was weird. That was weird. Okay, let me start over. I'm sorry. That's right, Kaylee. Not today, Satan. Okay. Hey, David. Yay. David. Y'all, David's an elder from my church, and he is awesome. Okay. Starting from the top, sorry. And Latasha. Oh, I knew you guys gonna make me cry. Okay. My story. I used to walk through Lust's door quite often. With each step I took toward the door, my heartbeat accelerated and my moral senses roared like a siren before a storm. Fantasy danced seductively before lust's entrance, luring me in, whispering the promises of pleasure. I was drawn to the door like a moth to the flame. Deep down, I knew that that fantasy was an effort to compensate for what was beneath lust's enchanting mask: destruction. Every time I walked through lust's door, I became more desperate and needy. When I yielded to temptation, I got farther away from who I was supposed to be. I would often say to myself, but this is the last time, I swear. I'll get this out of my system tonight and then I'll be finished for good. I'll finally get serious about my relationship with God and embrace sexual purity. Lust and I go way back. Pornography, I'm sorry, I hated it. I loved it. Maybe I should get out of this situation, I'd contemplate. But before I debated the matter any further, lust would welcome me inside, greeting me like an old friend. Lust and I go way back. Pornography on cable TV and the internet first opened the door to my fascinations. I was young at the time, not completely sure of right and wrong, but something in me knew pornography wasn't right. My new companion, shame, told me I should keep meetings with lust a secret from that time on. Since then, I've always looked over my shoulder and made sure the coast was clear before I knocked on Lust's door. Lust beckoned me inside, saying, "Come on in. I've been waiting for you." Like clockwork, my good judgment would make one final petition for me to double back, to spare myself the regret, the guilt, and shame. But back then, all I could concentrate on was how lonely and desperate I felt in the moment. I'd stop resisting, rationalizing that one tiny visit with lust wouldn't hurt. And since it would be the last time I'd be there, I'd better live it up, I thought. Yielding to temptation, I'd slip inside, vowing to repent and make better decisions tomorrow. However, the next evening, I'd be right back at lust's door. Every time I solemnly pledged to do better tomorrow, but when tomorrow came, I'd find a new excuse to visit lust again. And as the cycle continued, I wondered how much longer God would listen to tomorrow's prayer for forgiveness. Has he already given up on tomorrow? I'd wonder. I was tired of making empty promises, but I couldn't help myself. What are your thoughts? Let's stop for a minute. My struggle with sexual impurity began when I began indulging in pornography. As we look at sexual impurity, you may think of a number of other possibilities: adultery, homosexuality, premarital sex, cheating within a monogamous relationship. Maybe as you read, you can relate because you identify with the enticement of lust and the feelings of shame. You've been caught in a similar unfulfilling cycle, and you have been filled with shame and regret from your choices. You want to escape, but you find yourself stuck. Maybe you're feeling torn about reading this book. A part of you wants to read the book, but the other part of you feels scared that what you read might hold you accountable to a standard you've long abandoned and are not sure you want to revisit. I encourage you to keep reading, even if your feelings are uncertain at this point. This book is a book of promise and hope for you, as I've been right where you are today. I understand that sexual purity, or really sexual impurity, is not an easy thing to talk about. Believe me when I say that I understand and am right there with you. As we talk about these difficult topics, I'll reveal some more of my story, still not so easy to unveil, so that you know I'm not pointing fingers of judgment, but extending my hand to you to help you up rather than what others often do: push you away. At times, you may think something like this as you read: did she really just go there? Yes. And at times, you might feel uncomfortable reading. That's okay. Know that I've done my best to be both direct and sensitive. I will reveal only the parts of my story that God has shown me will be helpful to you, the reader. No matter your feelings, I'm pretty sure of this: you or someone you love is struggling with sexual purity. I don't think that you'd be reading this book otherwise. I'm writing this book, sharing my story along with biblical teaching, because more than being afraid to talk about it, I long for you to experience freedom from lust's grasp. I want you to experience the healing I experienced when I learned to bring my shame into the light of God's character and promise to us not only to forgive, but to forget we have ever been there. There is a There is a verse in the Bible that says, yes, I alone will blot out your sins for my own sake and will never think of them again. Isaiah 43:25. This is real hope for us. And Isaiah saw a lot of darkness in history, much like you and I have felt and seen. So if anyone can give us some hope, he can. But as a first step, we have to talk about our sexuality and how we've walked out our feelings. We have to get it out in the open for it to lose its grip on us. I'm not talking about sharing with everyone. I'm talking about sharing with God and hopefully a friend, maybe someone who has the same struggle. I'm not sure where you are with God. If you're like me, when sin has become a habitual cycle of giving in, feeling awful, then trying to change, it's hard to come to God. But it's time for you to come home, to find that God really does care about you, even as you are struggles and doubts. I think if you understand God more, especially how much He loves you, you'll be able to come home to Him to find freedom. God, as your creator, knows how you were created for love and how you, along with countless other people over generations, have tried to fill that need for love sexually. And his response to those before us is the same as it is to you and me. Just come to me, turn to me. Are you willing to take the first step to seek him and his power to help you get there? Running away or coming home. Almost done, you guys. I slipped out of lust's door again. The high was over, the thrill was gone, and guilt hit me like a head on collision. Regret weighed heavily on my heart, and the thought of coming home to God and returning to fellowship with God killed me. I felt so separated from him, and that certainly he wouldn't want me to share my soul with him after I had just shared it with lust. I knew God was seated at a table for two, graciously waiting for me to join him. I dreaded opening up the door and seeing him there, waiting for me. I didn't want him to look at me because I knew that he knew where I'd been and what I'd done. He'd motioned for me to come and sit, and reluctantly I did. But sometimes I didn't. Sometimes days, months, and even years went by without my returning back home or even attempting to repent. I was afraid the next time I came home, he wouldn't be there. So I ran away again and again. What made me stop running away? What made me finally find my way back home and stay home with my father? That's what this book is about. Finding my way back home took an honest answer to a very uncomfortable question. May I ask you this very uncomfortable question? Is it possible that we trust and find satisfaction in sexual pleasure more than we trust and find satisfaction in God? That's a big question, isn't it? Maybe you're ready to scream, yes, and I hate it. Maybe the question makes you cry with remorse and regret. Maybe you're not sure what to answer. Maybe you don't want to answer. That's okay. I had to answer this question to get to the root of my problem. And I did want to get to the root. I was tired of the habitual cycle of sin I was in. I had to face this fact. I turned to sexual pleasure more than I turned to God when I felt lonely, stressed out, and hopeless. Every churchy body in my bone wanted to deny it, but that was the God honest truth. It's not how I wanted to be, but it was who I had become, a slave to lust. All right, that's the end of our brief reading. That's from Chapter 1, those were pages 13 through 18. What did you guys think? Don't kill me in the middle of my book launch party, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. And now, as we get ready to transition, while I wait for you guys to comment, I will take some more of my Welch's grape juice. This is so good, y'all. And don't you just feel so fancy when it's in this kind of body? All right. All right. Thank you, Cece. It was so wonderful, so needed. Thank you, Alethea. Thank you for saying it's so good. I'm so happy, you guys. I really appreciate it. So now let's move over. Let me get this banner over here. It's time for our question and answer portion, and then we'll move into the book signing. So let's see. I guess we'll do the questions, and then we'll do the question from the Wizard of Oz trivia, the trivia from the Wizard of Oz. And so, do you guys have any questions about the book? Marissa says, "I admire your strength." Girl, thank you. I really appreciate that. CC True. Thank you so much. Like, seriously. I'm trying to do better about being more joyful and being more myself. I really, to be honest, I don't like posting a lot on like Instagram, Facebook, and stuff like that. It's just, it comes with the territory of trying to do ministry online. But it's such a pleasure to me when I get to like talk to you guys. Naturally, Beck says she loves it and she's on chapter 3. Thank you. Is that you, Rebecca? I think that's you. David, I think the Holy Spirit is going to use this so greatly. Thank you, David. Y'all, David's my elder. I love my elder, David. He's awesome. But yeah, I'm so happy that to hear that, you guys. It's such a blessing. So, does anybody have any questions about the book, about the process behind writing the book, or anything about that? Cece says, I always feel encouraged after talking with you. What was your biggest challenge in writing this book? I want to say thank you, Cece. Girl, I love talking to you too. You guys, Cece is one of the awesome members and leaders in our group, the Purpose and Purity community group. So if you're not joined already, just type into the Facebook bar, search Purpose and Purity support group, and it'll come up, and do apply. But yeah, for Cece's question, I think the biggest challenge for most people in writing a book is staying motivated. And for me, this book is crazy. God took me through this long journey of writing this book over I want to say it's at least 3 years, because it was originally gonna be, pitched to a traditional book company. I had a book agent and everything was going well, and then everything wasn't going well, and I just decided, because of my husband and my family, we were getting ready to move to Japan. I decided, you know what, let's just self-publish this thing, and I'll have more freedom to give the book content and put it out there for people who need it. So that's what ended up happening. But for me, it was very discouraging when when that part happened, when I realized that it might not be I wasn't going to be able to really, within the time frame and with the circumstances of my life change, and wasn't going to be able to traditionally publish it. It was kind of disappointment. But through a lot of failure and trial and error, God taught me how not to be I want to say most people, even people who are doing their Christian ministries online, we have that desire for our work to be acknowledged. And a lot of times we feel like it has to be acknowledged by a traditional publishing company or by acknowledged by a bunch of followers or something like that. But God had really taken me through this humbling process. And then more recently, God let me mess up a Facebook Live in a live stream it was Facebook and YouTube. I messed that up, but in the process of that, I was able to have this face-to-face virtual meeting with people in my audience, through the Purpose and Purity Facebook group. We have our weekly support groups, and I'm there and everybody's there. It's that has been such a pleasure to me, to be able to do life with people who need to hear this message, and then to watch people actually grow from the message, the content. It's the content is the message I'm giving, or that we're learning together from the Bible inside of our group. But to actually see that change people's lives and help them grow in their relationship with God, that's such a blessing to me. It helped me to persevere and give more and invest more to see it through to the end. And then after all that, to see people from the community donate their money so that we could have these books. We could have this first batch of books was purchased by y'all's generosity in the community. And that's such a big deal, because I didn't have to stress. That was one less thing I had to stress about. And now some people can be blessed with it, and it'll help bring more money into the ministry itself. So thank you so much. That was a great question, Cece. I hope that answered, but really it's just the biggest challenge to staying motivated. But God gave me what I need through community with you all. Marissa says, were there times when you went back and forth about publishing out of fear of the response? Did you ever become discouraged, and how did you overcome? Oh, that's a really good question, because I don't know. You guys probably don't do this, but it's my job. I look at other platforms that talk about sexuality. I go and look and read the comments. I go and look at the book reviews that they get. And if you're a Christian in the sexuality niche, people are looking for you to hate on you, to hate you. They take the time out of their day, just good chunks of their time, to go and like, they don't buy your book, but they'll like leave a 1-star review and say it's hateful because it's preaching this, and like people need to be able to do sexually whatever they want and that. And so for me, the biggest thing, like going back and forth between publishing, self-publishing, and traditionally publishing, it wasn't necessarily that fear. It was more of like, where is God leading? Is the opportunity there, or is it not? And I'm really grateful that this time around for my first book it wasn't, because I have so much control. I can be as generous as I want to be with this book. And really, that's my biggest thing, because I found just through being community with everybody, of course, I want to like, it'd be nice to make some money from this so that I don't have to, I don't have to worry about financial things for my ministry. But more than worrying about that or trying to be somebody like a #1 bestseller or something, like, what I mean? Like external approval type of things, like, is so valuable. God's really taught me that, how you say, it says in the Bible, like, that, I can't think of the verse right now because I'm tongue tied, but it's basically talking about what lasts forever, the kind of things that what's eternal. And the only thing that's really eternal, like, is the impact that I have in another person's life, or how I help somebody else come one step closer in their relationship with God, or growing in their relationship with God. So that's, seeing things from that perspective really helped me when things kind of didn't go as well as I hoped they would with trying to go the traditional publishing route. But just being able to start that ladder did give me that like encouragement that my book idea was needed enough and was good enough to have gone that way. But it was nice that I didn't. So just to answer the question, going back and forth, not for fear based on people being haters, because they're gonna hate on you whether you're self-published or traditionally published. but yeah, it's really more like the opportunity, whether God was leading that way or not, and then just being able to be generous and not being traditionally published. What advice would you give someone who's dealing with sexual sin? Oh man, I think the biggest thing overall, I cannot say or state anything of more importance when you're dealing with sexual sin or any kind of sin, is that you need to do whatever you can to be growing in your love for God. And it starts with a prayer, because we can't make ourselves love God. I don't know if y'all can hear my 1.5-year-old screaming in the background, but it's going down. They playing too hard in there. But anyways, the biggest thing is like loving God more, because if you love God, the more you love God, the more unattractive sexual sin is, and any other sin is. It's hard for everybody, but you need to spend time with God. And I'm not just saying just only reading the Bible during that time. I'm talking about, reading a passage, letting God speak to you through that, meditating on it, sitting there marinating, but then just sitting in the quiet and just, being available and acknowledging God's presence. And then just trying to learn more about who he is and his character, just growing love for God, and that desire for sin will wane. Wait, can it be published internationally? I'm from the Philippines. Oh yeah, the book, it's available more than on Amazon. It's like on Scribd, Barnes and Noble, Kobo. There's so many like ebook. Like if you want an ebook, you can get it. What's the other? I can't think of it right now, but if you just Google the book and then put ebook, you should be able to find it. But I know Scribed for sure. Like my friend in Australia can read it. But yeah, you can publish a book or ebook internationally, self-published. How can I share this book in a loving way with a friend who is struggling with lust? Ooh, that's good. Hmm. Hmm. That's funny. I guess it really depends on the relationship you like. Do you have if you have a relationship with this person, right? Like where they have like confessed this sin to you and kind of like opened up to you and let you know, then I think that's kind of like you're in, right? Like, because if they've already trusted you with this, then you can say, hey, you let me know about the struggle you're having. And I got to thinking about it. I found this really great resource. I know of this really great resource. And I really want to share this with you because it really helps so many people. And then there's other resources attached to it, like a support group and, a podcast. So I really think this would be a great tool and resource for you. As are, working this out and seeking to honor God in this area of your life. So if the person hasn't, confessed that to you yet, I guess you'd have to like kind of be talking to them. But I think you know that already, CC. But yeah, if that person has kind of like brought that to you, you can just say like, hey, you asked me to be a resource and accountability to you in this area. And so I want to give you this because I know this will be a great resource for you. That's a good question though. Thanks so much. Oh my gosh, I threw the schedule out just talking, but so we're a little bit behind. Questions are over now because I got to keep my schedule with you guys. But that was really great. All right, book signing. Let's do the book signing. But first, I have my second question for the giveaway, which comes from the movie The Wizard of Oz. And now, like everybody, I think everybody knows The Wizard of Oz. I'm sure everybody knows this. So I'm gonna read the question. Gonna give you guys 30 seconds, and then whoever has the answer first is gonna be the winner. Now, the question is, in The Wizard of Oz, what is Dorothy's last name? What's Dorothy's last name, y'all? Anybody know? So I'm looking in the chat now. Starting my 30-second timer so that nobody can just Google it. Oh my gosh, where'd the chat go? My chat just disappeared. Maybe it just disappears every time I toggle between the menus. But as that goes, we will do the live book signing. And then we'll end. I'll give you guys a little benediction. But I want to say, while I'm waiting for the answers to this question, if you are reading this book and you would like to give back in some kind of way, the biggest thing you can do to help other women find this book is leave a rating or a review on Amazon or Goodreads. So I really want to encourage you. Oh, who said it first? Rebecca said Gail. She's the first one. That's right. Gail. That's a good question. Good job. So I will sign this for you and then mail it to you to your house. So if you I already kind of, my fingers hurt from holding this. If you could just email me your address, DM me your address, you can do it on Facebook or something. Or just at titania.page@gmail.com. And I can mail it to you. Okay. But let's get with the book signing. So I'm gonna kind of like, I know of some people on here, and Cece, I think your name is at the top of the list alphabetically, but let's see. Yeah. Okay. So if you gave and your name is like, if you gave through the GoFundMe to make the first batch available, please go ahead and like just type your name in the chat so I can call you and then and ask you what you want me to write. So, but I'll start with you, CC. Let me just, I don't have my pen. Gerald, G. Sorry, I'm being so ghetto right now. G the bug. Yeah, he totally can't hear me. All right, let me grab this pen off the table and you let me know what you want me to write in your book, please. Okay. Let's go with, we got pink or we got, wait, I wanted to do the orange. Orange! Because it's our brand color, right? Cece, what should I write in your book? I don't know if Cece is AFK. Y'all know what that means, gamers? Away from keyboard. Favorite verse, please. My favorite verse or your favorite verse? You tell me your favorite verse? Yeah. While I'm waiting for Cece to tell me. But again, if this is something that this book has blessed you, it would really, really be very helpful, and it would help other women find the book if you could leave an Amazon review or a Goodreads review. A favorite verse, please. Yeah. Your favorite verse, Cece, or my favorite verse? I'm thinking yours, but my favorite verse. Okay, wait. It's gonna take a long time for me to write this, so let me write a note. I'm gonna put my favorite verse. Anything else? All right. Okay. All right, let me set your book neatly here. And I'm gonna write my favorite verse in there. Okay, let me call some other names out so that I can actually give thanks to everybody while I'm doing this. So yeah, thank you to the crowdfunding support that helped make this book possible, to Abby, Antoniette, to Ashley Yates, to Brittany Robinson, Casey Grooms, Christina of Beloved Women, and Cece. Your signature. Yes, of course. I will definitely put my signature in there. Claudine Thompson, thank you for your generous donation. Dana, I love you. Thank you so much. Dorian. Now, I don't know if I'm saying it right. Please don't be mad at me. Folokemi? Folakemi? I hope I said it right. I doubt it. Jen Dunawald and Kaylee. Kaylee, you're here, right? What do you want in your book? Kaylee, let me know and I'll write it. Kendra Tillman of StrongHer.me. Luana Wilson, thank you so much. Melissa Davis, is that you, Melissa, up there? Is this the same Melissa? No, this is Marissa. I'm sorry, Marissa. Marissa and Melissa. Rachel Cotton, thank you so much. Taylor, thank you. Tamara, the Cook family, and Tierna, thank you so much. Kaylee, what do you want me to write in your book before we go on? Because I think only you and Cece are here for a book signing. So sweet. I hope this doesn't, like, taking this book doesn't make this display fall. All right. So, a drawing of a flower. Okay. Yeah, I like to draw. Kelly, thanks so much. I will definitely draw you a picture of a flower, Kaylee. Flower. Okay. I'm going to get on that pronto. Now, for our final part. Oh, wow. We just really come down to the end of it all, you guys. We're getting ready to be invited. So thank you guys so much for joining me. This has been such a pleasure. Like, I've never imagined like I would have at least like 15 ride or die homies that'll like spend the next like hour, pretty much an hour and 19 minutes with me to celebrate my book. You guys are awesome, and I'm so blown away and so grateful. Just want to invite you, if you haven't already joined the Purpose and Purity support group, visit titania.com, titaniapage.com, and apply, or just in the Facebook, do search for a Purpose and Purity group. And also, before I leave, I wanted to let you guys know, to celebrate this launch week, you can get a digital copy of Come Home for free right now via Amazon Kindle. So if you do have Amazon Kindle, go ahead and visit the link in the group. Visit the link in the comment or the description of this video. It says buy the book, but it's gonna take you to the Amazon page where you can choose the Kindle or the print. So if you haven't already, if you know a friend who needs it, or you know a women's ministry group or a young youth group leader, whatever, do click the Kindle, and it's absolutely free right now. Please download it. I want to celebrate this book with you guys. Thank you so much for your support. Kaylee says doodle bob style. Okay, I can do that. A drawing of the group photo of our group. Okay, I've only the Zoom screenshots, but okay, I'll do it. It sounds like fun. Thank you guys again so much for joining me. God bless you. And again, if this book blesses you, please leave a rating or a review so that other women can find it. That's so important. Like, it's literally almost like you guys giving me $1,000 when you leave a book review, because it's that important to the book and to helping others find the book. And so I'm so grateful again. Thank you for spending this hour with me. And I will see you guys on the podcast, on the YouTube channel, and in the Facebook group. See you next time. It's over already. I love you guys. Sweet, sweet, sweet people. We love you. I love you, Melanie. I love you, Kaylee. Cece, love you. See you Monday. See you Monday, bright and early. Well, bright and early. It's 6:30 p.m. Central for our support group. Love you guys. Bye-bye.